All right, today's video is on a new acquisition, and that is the District 9 flipper, and this is in the drop point version. So if you guys are kind of Instagram followers or you're part of the Instagram tactical knife community, then no doubt you've seen quite a few people picking these up over the last week or two. And it is a knife out of China. And this particular one is branded Reate. There's also another vendor, BG Knives, on Instagram who sells them, and I'll put links down below. But anyways, that's where you have to get them. There's really not a retail location in the United States, although I do believe that Arizona Custom Knives does stock a few of them from BG Knives. So anyways, let's kind of jump into the basics here, kind of get in and out in the first 3 minutes for those who want the short version, and then I'll talk more about it after that. So specs, again, obviously this is the drop point configuration. There's also a Tonto configuration, and the handle details are a bit different. It has one large groove cut out and a smaller one up here, whereas this one's got a bunch of the smaller ones. Let's take a look at the other side here. Just kind of a quick look at the knife. All right, specs. So overall length is about 8.6, blade length is 3 1/4, and then the handle length is obviously about 4.8 or so. But blade thickness is 0.157, nice chunk of steel there. And then the blade material is S35VN, good steel, definitely. And this uses a flipper and thumb studs for deployment, and it does ride on a ball bearing system. And then the handle material is 6AL4V, and those are the specs. So this knife kind of reminds me, obviously it's kind of part of that hard use, heavy duty, overbuilt knife configuration, or that group of knives. So it reminds me a lot of some of the J. Kobach knives, and then also the Alpha Hunter Tactical. And not that it copies either of them, but I think it fits in the same motif. And it does so at quite a reasonable price. As of just about the first part of September 2014, these are right around 200 bucks, depends on which vendor you go with, and then shipping is going to be around 30 bucks. So that's what it's going to cost to get your hands on one of these. And again, for what you're getting, that's actually really reasonable. And this knife, it's a great knife. It has a lot of good features. It has a lot of things going on. It's not perfect. There's a few little things that I can nitpick about it, but those have nothing to do with the quality or the fit and the finish. It's more of, if I were to design it, I would have done these things differently, and I'll go into that as well. So anyways, excellent value. I think if you get one, you'd be pretty happy. Oh, the weight. So that's probably a big one too. This thing weighs in at 7.65 ounces. So it's pretty beastly for a pocket folder, but again, it's part of that pry bar, overbuilt type of family. Although it's not terribly thick in the handle, so it rides in the pocket quite well. Even though it is a little bit wider and obviously it's heavier. I don't have any problems carrying it. I've had smaller knives that were much thicker, and the thickness is really what constitutes a comfortable carry, just like with firearms. Slide length doesn't really matter. Handle length affects printing, but anyways, I won't get off on a tangent. So again, for those of you who were coming in for the short version, pick one up. I don't think that you'll be disappointed by any means if this is what you're looking for. If you've been wanting one of these brick pry bar type knives, but you don't really want to pay what they're going for in the secondary market, I think this will fill that void in your collection quite well. So let's so that's the short version. Now let's get into kind of the longer, or what's going on with this knife. So District 9, if you've been in the knife community for over a year or so, then you might remember last year there were 2 different knives that appeared kind of out of the blue from District 9. And those knives, I believe one was a Tonto. I don't remember the details, but if you go to YouTube and you do a search, you'll see 2 videos. I know one was from Carter and one was from someone else on the 2 different models that kind of just appeared out of nowhere. And then they seemed to disappear as well. I mean, they came, I saw a few videos, I saw a few of them floating around, and then I haven't seen anything since, not until this version came out. And it looks like they actually made quite a few improvements on the on the previous designs. They look a bit more refined and so forth. Now, out of those two vendors who sell them, Reate and BG Knives, I tried inquiring as to who designed it and who made it. I really didn't get a clear answer, or not one that I felt like, yes, this is exactly what happened. There was still some ambiguity, and so I don't really know who designed it and who created it. Obviously, whatever entity District 9 is credited with the design, but as far as the production, I don't think either of them are actually doing it. I think they're basically getting these knives and putting them together, almost like parts kits. I could be wrong, don't take that as truth, but that's just kind of the vibe that I'm getting from it. But again, that shouldn't affect your decision to purchase this knife or not, because it's really about how's the quality, how's the price, how's the design, and I think it hits all those things quite well. So if you get it from Reate, the drop point is in a gold configuration. And let's show off this backspacer here. This thing is pretty epic. They did a little blue anodization, or anodized the backspacer there in this portion where the jimping is. And then the backspacer, this is titanium. I took a magnet to the entire knife, and the only thing that the magnet stuck to was the pivot and then the screws essentially, and obviously the blade, because the blade is steel. But anyways, this is titanium, this is titanium, the handles are titanium. I believe this is stainless steel, and then the collar on the pivot is stainless steel. But anyway, so Reate's Tonto comes in kind of a purple coloration, and then the pocket clip is kind of a darker acid wash look to it. I don't remember the rest of the specs on the Tonto, but again, I think if you Google, there's probably enough images on Instagram where you'll be able to find examples of both. BG Knives, both of those are just kind of a hard stone wash. It looks more serious, less pretty, I guess that might be the word to use. But anyway, so that's just kind of the differences between the two vendors and kind of my thoughts on potentially where the knife comes from. But again, it's more food for thought. It's not really a big deal to me, at least. So let's talk about the rest of the knife. So hardware, again, I've already mentioned, so you've got a collar here around the pivot that protrudes. If it were me, I think this is a little too shiny for the rest of the knife. So I'm probably going to take something to this, maybe scratch it up a bit, maybe stone wash it a bit, kind of give it a better cohesion with the flow of the knife. Same with this, and definitely the same with this. A little too shiny kind of for the look of the knife, but nice detail, nothing's wrong with it. This thing flips really well. I've been playing with it for the last couple of days, and it's smoothed out even more so than when I got it, but flips quite well, nice and smooth. Falls into place. Thumb studs work well, and it's just it's got that nice thud, that overbuilt, that beefy look to it. Extremely solid. Just kind of what you would hope it would be. It fulfills kind of those needs. So pivot, backspacer, pocket clip screws. Again, I already went over those things a little bit. Everything is titanium. I think I would like to do a stone wash on this pocket clip too, again, to help it match better kind of with the flow or the influences or the design, I suppose, the overall look of it. But then the problem is that the backspacer, I'd also have to stone wash that as well. So, I might get brave and start messing with the knife. We'll see. So bearings, flips well. I think it'll smooth out even more when I throw a little CLP in the pivot. But anyways, it's really nice. Really satisfying. There's some jimping up here on the top, and this jimping is actually very, very well executed. I love it. It offers just the perfect amount of grip without jacking up your thumb. And then you've got some jimping here on kind of the very edge of the handle. That works well too. And I really like that they did not extend the jimping past the flipper, because that's where it chews up your flipper finger if you're sitting there opening it and closing it. So that was well done also. The blade is a nice stone wash. Looks really good. I like that they kept the blade fairly neutral. S35VN, totally fine with that. The Reate logo looks pretty good too. So again, I think a lot of things were executed well. Now, how does this compare size-wise with the other Reate? Oh my gosh. Which is the Horizon A here. They're actually both the same length. I don't know if the camera is going to convey that well, but they're both the same length essentially. And there's a difference in weight though between the Horizon A and then the District 9 back there. So again, this one weighs in at 7.65 ounces. The Horizon A is 6.4 ounces, so it's an ounce lighter. Now the other differences are essentially the design, the attention to detail. Some of the things that I raved about with this knife and I still love are that they took and they kind of chamfered these corners so that they took them from a 90 degrees and they made it nice so that when you flip the knife, your finger slides in there and it's quite smooth. And then the lock bar cut out here of the lock bar relief, very, very comfortable, very nice to disengage the knife. Now with this knife, essentially you have 90-degree corners here and here, and then here on the lock bar, this is kind of my biggest complaint. It's got some nice jimping right there so that you're sure to grab it well, but if you're sitting there and opening it and closing it multiple times to smooth it out, that gets pretty sharp pretty quick, so my thumb has taken a bit of abuse on there. Whereas again, compared to the Horizon A, this thing is a joy to flip open and to close. I mean, it's just, it was really, really well thought out, and that's another reason why I'm not sure if Reate actually produces it, but again, that's just internet gossip at this point. So those are the things that I would like to see different. Again, I'd love to see this a little less shiny, this a little less shiny. I can do that myself. And then if this was a little less sharp, and then the edges, the corners here, if they were beveled that nice, maybe a 45 in there, that would be great as well. But again, those are nitpicky things. You have to keep in mind it's a $200 knife. And for 200 bucks, I think you're getting, an excellent value. You're getting more than you probably should. And that's, again, one of the benefit to buying from where you're buying from a Chinese knife, essentially, is that it's a lot less expensive than this would be in the US. And I think this is, definitely mid-tech quality, and it's actually a little more fine than some of my mid-techs. Again, if you want that super beefy pry bar. And the other Reate, the Horizon A, this is definitely maybe even a step above mid-tech in my opinion. But one more size comparison. Let's take a look next to my Lion Steel here. And again, the camera angle can be a little bit deceiving, but as you can see, it looks pretty good. The District 9 is longer than the Lion Steel, and then the Lion Steel is actually a little bit lighter. It's 6.9 ounces versus the 7.65. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it for the knife. Again, just a few nitpicky things. Overall, I think it represents a great value, and I'm really glad that I picked it up. I was really excited about this knife. I did have to wait a couple days for them to finish anodizing it and then shipping it, so I got a little impatient, but I think if you order at this point, they should be ready to ship quite a few of them out, and I think that these are definitely going to sell out, and then you'll have to wait a couple months till the next batch comes in. I do know that the Horizon A is sold out, and so the rest are not coming for a few months. So anyways, if this knife interests you, take the plunge. Don't hesitate to buy it if it's what you want. And then again, kind of the little things, if those aren't your cup of tea, fairly easy to change. But some of the things that they did were really nice. So happy to have this one. I'll be excited to see the next model from Reate actually come up for sale, and it's called the Hills. And that one looks a bit more in line with the Horizon. And I actually think it looks really good, so I'm excited about that. So again, I'll post links to where you can actually buy these, or you have to either go through Facebook or Instagram, essentially, to get your hands on this model. Or if Arizona Custom Knives has them in stock, you are going to pay a bit more because, again, it's a middleman, but their service is supposed to be really good, and you're getting it from someone here in the States, so if you have a problem, you can always send it back to them and they'll take care of you. But comments or questions, go ahead and put them down below. Hopefully I didn't miss anything I wanted to talk about, but yeah, happy to have it. And if I do change up or make a few modifications, which would just be to, you know, rough these up a little bit, then I'll do another quick short video showing you what the difference is, so you can decide if that's what you want to do. Anyways, longer video. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.